Welcome to the Holding Priority Podcast, the Magic the Gathering CEDH Podcast. I'm Cardboard Cryptid.
I'm the Game of Ghosts.
On today's episode, we'll discuss our guide to CEDH Table Politics.
Want to get that Ristic study to resolve? What do you do?
Lie.
How do you do it?
Lie. No, don't lie.
I don't lie very often, if at all.
Before we get into it, let's go into the shuffle up. We have had quite a few comments on our Atlanta episode, and we are super close to 100 subscribers on YouTube. We're at like almost 7,000 downloads on the actual podcast. So like actual podcast doing really well. YouTube still doing really well. I would like to hit that triple digit number.
Yeah, big thanks to all of you guys listening, or girls, whoever, all over, everywhere. Thank you guys.
You peoples and or maybe cats that are left alone and need 2 hours of human voice to calm down.
I want to learn CEDH.
If that's you, meow meow, bark bark. So going into our comments, Jade Sush one. Oh, Jade Sushi. Okay.
Jade Shusher.
Yeah, I was like Jade Shush one. Top tier podcast. Maybe when I get better, I can guest spot. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Hazard Man TV. Love how much crap y'all give each other. That you mistress guy sounds like someone I know. Cool. And then just a reminder, we did put a pinned comment for Umistrix on his art station. We've been keeping up with his art. Really cool. It's www.artstation.com/CULLY1, Cully1.
Yeah, he's pretty talented.
Gotta plug our peeps if we're gonna plug ourselves. Speaking of plugging ourselves, oh, that sounds inappropriate.
Family podcast.
Plugging our podcast. We do have a link tree. That link tree has a lot of stuff on it. Our collab that we did with Smooth Brain. If you guys hear me talk about Hashton and you're just like, that sounds really cool, there's a primer there. I do need to update it after this most recent tournament and Fall Fantasy and all that stuff. Definitely in need of an upgrade. I think I'm going to swap to something kind of spicy, but I'll have to see how it performs in a tournament before I talk about it. But we also do have a TCG player link. No cost to you. Just click it, even if you don't buy anything. Helps us out. If you do buy something, helps us out a whole bunch. So if there's anything that you're just like, like I want to get this card, or I've been looking at like a really expensive card like Transmute Artifact. If you end up pulling the trigger on it, please use our link. It helps out a bunch. The sounds that we use every podcast, that was completely from viewers and listeners like you. Just clicking the link and helping us out. Doesn't seem like it does a whole bunch, but it's really important. So please use it if you think about us. And then we do have social media. It's on the link tree. Our Discord I've been in quite a bit. We're going to start doing maybe a little bit more regular spell table nights. So if you guys want to play with us, you can go in there. We'll throw like random links every once in a while, but real life has been kind of crazy. We've had a tournament to go to almost every 2 weeks, lots of travel, lots of work. Just it's been crazy. Good crazy. Sometimes, but
it's been a blast. I'm not gonna lie.
And then just remember to, if you're on YouTube, please comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to get notified every time we release a podcast. And then if you are on a podcast platform, please set us to auto download. And if you haven't rated us 5 stars, please rate us 5 stars. If you're going to rate us 1 star, how about we talk about that? See, that was politics right there.
You could put it in the comments.
You can put it in the comments,
and then
as to why we're 1 stars,
and we'll change it.
Maybe we'll improve, and then we can get to 5 stars. See, we're already teaching you guys politics right now. I think that's it for kind of our shuffle up. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not really. I will say thank you guys again. It really does help us out a lot. It's been real
Didn't
fun.
you swap to Terra? Did you want to talk about that
Um,
before we get into it?
yeah, I did make a swap to Terra. I don't want to say it didn't perform well because I did end up
Top
in
16,
the
yeah.
top 16.
I was number 18 again, so I was just there.
Oh
But yeah,
man.
it hurts. Like,
But what I am seeing is that it's a little bit slower. I haven't really put in Necropotence, and it is an enchantment that I think I may try. But so far, I've really enjoyed Terra. It's a lot different than Blue Farm. Blue Farm is it's a meta deck, and everybody at the table plays it as a meta deck. When you're doing something a little off, it's kind of, I don't want to say homebrew advantage, but
I
it's a little
will
different.
admit that I'm so tired of seeing Blue Farm win, where if I have the ability to lock the Blue Farm player out of winning and then us tie, I will go a little bit harder on that.
Keeping with theme of
Yeah, yeah,
politics, not to shut you off, but Blue Farm is really hard to politic initially. If you do get heuristic study or mystic out, it's easier to politic people to play into, but it's harder to get it to resolve.
I also think everybody has had that Blue Farm player that was like, oh, if I can just draw guys, like, you know, give me like 2 or 3 draws, and you know,
Maybe I can do.
maybe I can interact, and then you know, you pass to them, and they have all the interaction that they need. They just, you know, wanted to keep it for their turn.
Yeah,
Then they just blow everybody out. Yeah, which I mean, props to them. That's how you do it. But yeah,
for me, it's a lot easier to politic with a deck that's not as known. Terra's kind of a weird one. Most people, it's just 5 color good stuff. It's no, it has a theme. It does things.
yeah.
But just not being able to pinpoint exactly what to do is kind of nice. Instead of just being like, well, don't let them draw and you'll be okay. Is a little different.
Yeah, it's if it seems like they're hitting a bunch of junk that they don't want on the top of their deck, maybe they have what they need in hand.
Or I just didn't want to draw those 5 cards. Like that could help too.
Or you have Underworld Breach combo and you're just filling your yard. Yeah, like it's pretty sneaky. I do like it.
But no, if you're thinking about Terra, I do have my list up. I kind of cut and pasted from another one just so I didn't have to get all the lands and stuff, and then I made some adjustments. And so kudos to, I don't remember who exactly I pulled from, but kudos to them too.
You'll show it in the history
Yeah.
if you ever feel like it. But yeah, like I there's been a couple times on the podcast that we've shown like newer commanders, and I've just exactly done what you did, copy pasted from somebody just to get the land base, and like completely wiped everything out outside of the CDH staples. And I didn't know that it gives somebody a notification when you duplicate from them. So like we've done a podcast and then someone's just been like, you didn't credit me for my deck, and it's like, it's not really your deck if I change out 20 cards, but like, you know, I get where you're coming from. Like I should have, you know, so I'll usually fix that in the comments, but
Honestly, if I was, I'll give them a little more kudos at this point because I haven't changed. I wouldn't say 20 cards have been changed. It's probably maybe closer to 5 or 6 at the moment.
Yeah.
But really, I'm trying to get the play style in, and then once I get the play style, I do already see about 3 cards that I want to change now. But not to say that they weren't good before, but just kind of better on my style.
And also, while we're kind of off subject, just a hint to you guys: please put Dranth Match Straight back in your deck.
Oh yeah, MVP of the
Yeah.
last tournament. For sure.
We've been seeing a lot, especially Vivi and Natali winning, and basically everybody's like, "Oh, you know, like those cards are broken." It's like, well, yeah, they're broken if they can play them. You know?
Well, I'm pretty convinced too that CEDH kind of sways back and forth between different staples that need to be in. Remember, there was a time that Op Agent was needed quite a bit, and so was like, I can't think of
The rise of Sisay made Op Agent a requirement for all black decks.
Yeah, because there was like a Sisay in just about every There was a time.
Yeah, if you're playing a white deck and you're like, man, I'm not as fast as Vivi or Atali, I can't win on turn 2 or 3. Yeah, you're right. Put in Dranith, everything will be fine. Like there's been a lot of times where I've played with somebody that topped 4 with Vivi recently, and I am Esper, so I just put in Dranith or I put in Gilded Drake, and they have not been able to do anything several games in a row. It was MVP in our last one, like last round. I won my last round after kind of scrubbing out all day with ties and two ties, 2 losses, and we were against Oswald Fiddlebender, and I was like, oh, Oswald comes out, he just wins with like. We have Sisay, which Sisay is not going to be able to out tutor Oswald, especially with their stacks, and then we have Glarb, and Glarb needs to resolve spells to win. I was just like, I got tossed down an early Dranth Magistrate, and I did, and it lasted pretty much the entire game, and I won because Oswald was just like, yeah, I can't do anything if there's that. Like I have a Path of Exile and I have a Swords, and I gotta try to draw into it. Yeah.
I think in the last tournament for sure, I tutored up at least 2 to 3 times Drana.
Yeah.
It's been great.
It was also funny because with Glarb, he had his commander out, and he was like, I might snuff out Dranith, and I was like, why? And he was like, well, I can't play my top card, and I was like, I mean, I guess that's fair, but like, you're the only one that has their commander out minus me, and it's Dranith is so impactful that you still want to kill it. Like that tells how strong Dranith is.
Well, so I did have that same exact thing with Glarb.
Yeah.
And I was worried because turn 1 they pulled Glarb and VV out.
Yeah.
And once Glarb gets a Dranith out, it shuts down all of Glarb's shenanigans immediately. Like it's worth it.
Even Vivi wants to play from exile too, because they have a lot of like light up the stage or Jessica's Will and stuff like that. Puts things in exile so that they can keep going. So like it works. And it also shuts down Underworld Breach combo completely and Food Chain combos completely. Like
maybe we'll go into another on a sooner podcast about different things that are good meta breakers.
Yeah, maybe in December.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have quite a few tournaments, I think, until then too. So
yeah, we'll have 2 episodes. We'll have a month of Spider-Man, a month of Avatar, and then usually we do the wrap up for a month. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out at the end of the year. The other thing, just crazy, EOE was the last in-universe set of the year, so we've got like a full 5 months of
just random stuff. I'm pretty excited about Avatar, not so much about Spider-Man personally, and I love Spider-Man.
There's still a lot of spoilers for Spider-Man. I didn't think that there was, but I looked at it, so I like what they've shown currently. I'm not too excited about. We'll see.
I want a Carnage card, but it has nothing to do with anything.
There was a leak of that. He if it's real, it's just blood tokens, which I mean kind of makes sense, but meh.
Yeah, I just like Carnage.
Yeah.
But anyway, politics.
Yeah, let's get into politics. What's your first big politic point?
I think that if you play CEDH, honestly, that politics is kind of what brings you back to playing, because it's a different. You can't really politic in 1v1 so much.
Yeah.
But politicking in multiplayer is kind of like the bread and butter of how to win. One of my biggest politicking points is like trying to get that piece on the board. Like, let's say you're trying to get a Rhystic Study or a Smothering Tithe, and most of the time those cards are really hard to they're easily burned counters, and sometimes that's good. However, there is times when you can kind of shade your advantageous move under a politic as well. Like, hey, Blue Farm's got Mystic Rhystic. Let me cast the Smothering Tithe. If I get the Smothering Tithe to resolve, the chances of them drawing 15 cards is low, because then I'll have 15 treasures.
You would have the worst time convincing me that.
Well, to be fair, convincing you of anything is hard for me.
I would say the only time I would probably let a smothering tithe resolve is if we saw somebody tutor a wheel.
Yeah.
And the person was like, I'm playing smothering tithe just to stop a wheel. Like if you guys want a wheel to go through, or if you guys don't want a wheel to go through, let me keep the smothering tithe. Or like you said, if somebody's just going crazy with draw and we're like, hey, we're all really behind. If I get this smothering tithe off, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to try to win, but like at least we have two boss monsters at the table instead of one boss monster that just picks us all up and eats us this turn. Like with a smothering tithe, I have a lot to say if they try, and maybe it's a kaiju battle and the kaijus kill each other and then the people on the ground are like, all right, now we can try. Like,
well, and smothering tithe is one of those ones that's not real situational, whereas a Ristic study is a little easier to play in and be like, well, look, I think they're gonna go for breach. The second they start going for breach, I mean, I'll draw a bunch of cards. That's my play.
yeah.
And at some point like that, I'd probably show my hand if it wasn't really advantageous then.
I would say for me, there are a lot of times where I'll like let fish or Ristic resolve if, and like I know this, but maybe other people wouldn't, where like there's a Kark Shakashima at the table, or there's an Atali, or there's a VV where someone's like, hey, I have a Ristic or a Mystic out. I'm going to keep it up so that if VV tries to storm off, if Atali tries to storm off, if anybody tries to storm off, like they don't do it unhindered. Like, I played a Ristic and Kark is trying to counter it. So like, can you guys defend it?
I know we're kind of jumping a little bit too, but there's also those scenarios where, let's say you're player 2 and player 3 has tutored a couple of times, and you could be like, well, look, this isn't a win. This is literally trying to get some value on the board. And if they go for it, I don't have anything initially to do anything, but maybe with this I can.
Yeah.
So if you've got a counter, this isn't the thing to counter with them tutoring.
Or also, like, if you have a counter, how about you pass and make the person that might win next turn defend it? Yeah,
true.
Like, and sometimes that works for me, where I'll just be like, hey, I know you don't want me to have this Ristic, and I know you have a counter in hand, but where are you at? You're not winning. You're behind, right? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, how about you pass on it? And the counter that dude's going to use to defend his win, you make him burn it right now. And then they're like, that makes sense. Like,
especially if the decks are similar to VV where it storms.
Yeah.
Because those decks, they can win through a Ristic, but the chances go a lot worse going through it. Like,
and there's some times where you do take two counters off the table where like the VV will have a counter and they'll try to use it, and then you're like, okay, well now here's where you use your counter to keep it, because we know for sure now that person's gonna go for it. So like, can you help defend it? Because if you don't, we lose here.
Those are like golden opportunities too. I would say realize when there is an opportunity like that, because then you're putting a monster on the board and now they're fighting to keep it or to get rid of it, like together.
Yeah.
So it's helpful in the fact that, if somebody's fighting for my Ristic, it's happened, but it's rare.
And there's people that'll be like, well, if I let resolve, like on your turn, we might lose. And I was like, well, you're for sure gonna lose on VV's turn. So like, pick your best option here. Like I was like, I'm not gonna say with a Ristic, I'm not gonna get ahead and maybe win, but like if you're worried about me having win in hand and resolving the Ristic just so it gets back to me, I'll show you my hand. Like I'm not afraid of that. One thing that I've noticed, just to kind of like sidestep into a different point, is I was very scared to show people my hand before, and I've gotten to the point where like if I'm not winning, I'll show people my hand, especially in Hashton, because like there's some times where I'll have Shroom and I'll have Time Jones up in hand, and people don't put those two together as a
No,
win. So like I'll just be like, hey, I need your help defending this, and someone will be like, well, I don't want to defend it, and then he passed to you and you win, and I'll just show him my hand and be like, here's my hand. Like, does that look like you need to be afraid of me? And like technically, like that's not a lie if I say like, does it look like you need to be defending me? But like it's one of those times where like, especially if I am nowhere near a win, like I'll show people and I'll be like, I've got two tutors in hand, like. Yeah, I mean, will I be able to try to pull a win out like in 2 turns? Yeah, but you're gonna lose right now. Like I'll show you guys that I'm not feigning that I have counters, and like you want to be careful because like there are times where I've been like, hey, you need to counter this, and someone's just like kind of feigning like they're going to, and then I'll be like, hey, here's my hand. I can't, and that person was actually just feigning that they had a counter, and they don't actually have one, and then they pass, and I'm like,
well, cool.
well, now this person knows that not only do you not have a counter, but I don't have a counter. Like, it's like good job, man. Like, but yeah, I mean, there's even in the most recent tournament, like I've had people want to give Blue Farm to tutors with a Wish Claw. Like Blue Farm will play it, they'll pass it to somebody, and they're like, I'll pass it to you if you pass it back. And I'll be like, you should not do that.
Yeah, no.
And I'll be like, you should give it to me, and they're like, well, I don't want to give it to you and you win. And I'm just like, here's my hand, like here's my hand, here's what's on board. Is it the worst thing if I get a tutor? Like,
Most people are also kind of you need to know you need to know the decks too that you're playing against. Something like Vivi or Kennen or Sisay, they're big monsters just off the rip.
yeah,
And it's easy to be like, hey, we're in a game now of turns.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna win here pretty soon.
yeah.
Like don't not to say my deck doesn't win. However,
My deck doesn't win on turn 2 or 3.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
I'm a mid game deck, and can I win turn one? Rare.
Yeah, I mean, like
Or turn two.
Kenrith and Sisay are also kind of mid range, but like when there's like an Atali or like a VV or like a Rogsai or something like that, like really also just knowing when decks win is kind of important too. Just because you can be like whenever Rogsai was a big thing, one of the things that I noticed was if I would look at the table and go, one of us needs to mulligan for early interaction, there's a Rogsai. People would be like, oh yeah, you're right, like I didn't think about that, and like kind of coaching the table of like, this is how you defeat this person, like they're going to try to go for it turn 1 or 2, really would help, because a lot of people, which surprisingly they just don't pay attention, like they'll just get to a table and be like, okay, cool, and then they'll just kind of like put on the blinders and then mulligan for what's best for them. And like just reminding people like, hey, we have a Rogsai here, somebody should try to keep a mental misstep, or like we need to make sure that we have early interaction. Can I'm not going to say that somebody needs to say that they're committing to that, but like if all of us don't mulligan, if all of us mulligan to win, we're all going to lose because Rogsai's here. So at least one of us needs to do the right thing and mulligan for interaction. And if that has to be me, I will put it out there, but somebody needs to.
Yeah. Or some backup too, because Rog is also Grixis, so it's really hard.
Yeah, especially with a new flare.
They could have counters.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's one of those things that you have to really look at and decide based on the table, and knowing when is kind of situational to play those big bomb spells. There's also times where you just you have God Hand, and you can do like a turn 1 Ristic, and that's there's really no politic in there.
I tried to do a turn 1 Necropotence the other day.
There's no politic in there.
And it was land, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, And then my third spell was a necropotence, and they had a mind break trap, and I was like, "You got it." I'm not even gonna pretend like that. This is not bad. Like
No, there's no.
you got it. You know?
Yeah, great job. You stopped me.
Yeah, that's another thing about just keeping your table presence is kind of important, because like if I would try to get that necropotence out and be like, well, you shouldn't counter it because like I'm just trying to draw for interaction, something like that, like immediately everybody would be like, I'm not listening to another thing this dude says. He's full of it, you know. Like
I see that a lot too, and I
Yeah.
would honestly say to avoid those type of, because let's say you went that route. Let's
Yeah.
say you went the route of, well, you shouldn't do that because of this, and then one person's like countered.
Yeah.
Instead, you could be like, well, you caught me. I'm kind of set back now.
Yeah.
And then slowly build back up
Yeah.
to that point.
And that's exactly what happened. I was like, sure, you got it. Like, and I was just like, basically my next turn was, yeah, I don't even have a land. Like I'm pretty far behind, and the game got to the point where I had built back up, and I do think I ended up winning that one with just like a really like, okay, a bunch of counters are gone. Cool, thoughts at work. Like,
Once you put yourself in that position too, you've kind of taken on the advisor of the table, and you can be like pointing fingers, which is it's fun in a way.
I'll just tell people I'm just like, where I'm at, I'm playing for a tie. So like just
Yeah.
yeah. Like I think that's another kind of important thing is know when to play for a win and know when to play for a tie. There's definitely some times where like I'll be fourth seat and I'll look at my mulligans and go like, okay, in fourth seat I need something kind of crazy. Like I need a turn one Dranith, turn one Ristic Study. I need to look at my hand and be like, I have Thassa combo turn 3. Like, and if I mulligan down to like 5 and I just have a playable hand, at that point I'm like, it's 19% to tie and 14% for me to win. Maybe I should just be playing for a tie. Like maybe a tie is the best possible thing for me to do. And what I should be doing is just slowing down the game. And then maybe, you know, by the time the game is 80 minutes in on my last turn, I'll be like, I've actually slowed the game down enough to where I can push my first win on turn 7, you know, like, but I mean, definitely like, I just also just think this ties into like completely understanding value at the table too.
Oh yeah.
I think those two go hand in hand, is like know when to play for a win, know when to play for a tie, and then also know when it kind of goes back to people just not paying attention. Like there's times where like Blue Farm will tutor twice and everybody is just like, you think he's gonna win? It's like he's tutored twice. Like yeah, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
Or like, you know, he kept up 5 mana. He's gonna necro, or he's gonna not necropotence, add Nas at instant speed. Like he's not just scrubbed out with 5 mana open, you know. And people will be like, oh yeah, you're right. Like one thing that I've noticed is like I pay attention a lot more than most people do at a table. Like even within our group too. Like I will sit there and be like, this person has shaped their hand, like they have their combo, they're just waiting, you know. Or like I won't really like say too much. Like the person that talks the most, I'm probably not going to listen to very well, just because like they've given me so much to listen to. But whenever I see somebody making like an obvious mistake, like if let's say, you know, Glarb is pretty behind and they're trying to resolve a fish, you know, turn 4, and somebody's going to go to counter that, I would just be like, they're behind, man. Like I don't really think I would stop the fish. Like worst case scenario, they get more counters and they help us out. Like if you're going to counter that, you're kind of telling me that you're going to try to push on your turn. So like,
yeah,
you know, like, and stuff like that. And people will be like, oh, that's right. Or like I've had a Winota player try to like talk the, like I kind of call it like backseat playing, where they're like, I want you to play your hand the way I tell you to. And I'm just like, are we really going to listen to a Winota tell us like what to remove so that there's less blockers, you know, like stuff like that. I think it's just kind of being like the Jiminy Cricket of the table, where like keeping kind of quiet, but when someone's trying to do something, just being like, hey, I know that they've been talking a lot, but like it seems like they're trying to push on their turn and they just want us to burn counters. Like, do you guys think that makes sense? And then they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, like who just as a check, who here wants to tie? I would like to tie. And then the other person's like, yeah, I would like to tie. And the other person's like, yeah, I'm not really at a place where I could tie. And then the fourth person's like, well, I don't want to tie. Like, I came here to play. It's like, okay, so now we all know who's going to try to push for a win.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and like, I mean, don't do that every turn, clearly. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, talking is sometimes better than counter spells, just because like, if somebody's really behind and they're trying to tutor, I'll be like, what are you trying to get? And they're just like, honestly, I'm gonna go try to get a command tower. I was like, we show it to me. Like, I have a counter in my hand. Like, I'll reveal it. I could stop you right here. My deal with you is I will let you get back in the game. Just show me the command tower or something like that. And like, usually that works. People are just like, yeah, I want to resolve it. Like, I'm not getting anything crazy. Like, I'll show it to you. I don't care. um or like I can talk to people and be like, hey, you're going to try to push this turn. Like, you've put a spell on the stack. Before you pass priority, I want to talk to you real quick. Like, I'll show you I have a force negation. If I need to show you the blue card that I'm going to exile with it, I will. How about you take that spell back? Because I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to push. I'm going to stop you. Or you think you have enough counter spells in hand. And if you do, go for it. But I'll show you right now that I can stop you. And if I stop you, I have nothing for him. And you're just going to make everybody lose. So instead of putting that spell on the stack, how about you help us stop this person? Or how about, you do something else? You just do a value turn. Like, rather than blowing yourself out, how about you do a value turn and you save up a counter for this person, then we both have counters.
I think that's a big play too, is to reveal the fact, because most games, once they get to that slog, it's the first person that pushes is going to waste all the count, like all the counters are
Yeah.
going to go to it. Which, if you can read the table and there's no counters, go for it. But if none have been shown, then it's kind of, I mean, you're going for it for this person to win.
Yeah, like yesterday, for example, I was actually playing another Hashton, which is like really weird. Like, maybe people in the area have just been like, Hashaton's cool. I saw him in a tournament. I want to build. But it was a 2 Hashton table, and the Hashton to my left, it was his turn, and I had Wish Clawed. And I told the whole table, I was like, if I get the Wish Claw, I'm Wish Clawing for interaction, because it was the last Wish counter on it. And I was like, I'm safe to give it to you. Like, I'm safe. I can guarantee you I'm going to go get interaction. I'll show it to you if I need to. And they were like, if you show it to me, I'll give it to you. And I'm like, cool. And I went and got a Flusterstorm because I knew the guy was going to try to Thassa combo out, and he didn't have enough mana to continue if I Flusterstormed him. So I passed to him, and I'm not expecting him to go for it because he knows that I went for interaction. And he goes for it, and I'm like, I have a counter for you. Like, I wouldn't, And he's just like, well, I gotta try. And instead, it just seemed to me that he wasn't gonna listen, so I didn't try to talk anymore. Also, like, the person that was going next was Blue Farm, and they were on 17 life, so I was like, I mean, if I have to burn a counter, I have to burn a counter. So he went for it, and instead of me like trying to be like, I'll show you the counter I have, I was just like, sure, man, if you're gonna push, you're gonna push. Like, I tried to warn you. He pushes, I counter him. He doesn't do anything. He passes. And then Blue Farm at 17 plays an ad nause, and within 4 cards, they just happen to stumble in to what they needed, and then they won. Which, I mean, never will happen to me.
Never.
Yeah.
That and consultation.
Yeah.
Always mess me over.
And the guy that played Thassa, looked at the Sisay player because they were the one that gave me the Wish Claw, and then they were like, "It's time for your counter," and they were like, "I didn't tutor for a counter." And he was like, "You didn't tutor for interaction?" It's like, no, he said he was going to tutor for interaction. I went and got Derevi, and he was like, why didn't you go for a counter? Now we're going to lose. You guys stopped me just to lose, you know? And it was like, well, if you would have not went for it at all, knowing that you wouldn't have gotten it through, you know, we wouldn't have lost here, you know?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like, I assume everybody is as good as the game, as good at the game as I am. And there's definitely times where like people like sit down and they're like, genuinely, they want some help. So you have to kind of just be like, hey, I know you said you're still going to go for it. I will show you the Flusterstorm so that you know I'm not bluffing. Do you really want to burn this counter and then pass around to the table? Like, stop yourself, pass around to the table, and then we lose. You know, like, how about you just not? You know, like,
And
it's like, this is not your window. Like,
and at this point too, like, that may have been a good opportunity as well to be like, hey, with that on the stack, you know, I'm going to show you a Flusterstorm, just not casting, but
Yeah.
showing.
yeah,
Do you agree to draw here? Because I guarantee next turn he wins,
Yeah.
or they win, whoever wins.
or if you're demonic consultationing, just value it. You know, like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I wouldn't want it to resolve because, like, whenever I see somebody tutor, and I know that they're going to go tutor for like food chain or something like that, I'll show a swan song and I'll be like, hey, I don't want to counter your tutor.
Yeah.
How about I show you this and you go get something else? You go get a mana dork, you go get a counter spell, go get something that doesn't force me to use this on your food chain, because I see that squeeze in your graveyard and I know you're getting food chain.
Yeah.
So how about you go get something else? You know? And like sometimes those are a little bit harder of a sell, but I mean, it kind of letting people know where the game state is at helps a lot. Really, I think what my strength is just keeping value understood at the table. Like, this person has tutored this amount of times, this person has drawn this amount of times, this person tutored this amount of times, but we wheeled, so they're not scary anymore. Like, their tutors are gone, they're actually kind of behind. Like, this person is probably playing for a tie because they blew out early and we stopped them, and you know, yeah, they could go for it again, but the way they're playing, I don't really think they're pushing. I think they're also trying to play for a tie. There's times where I'll tell people, like, at this moment I am playing for a tie. You know, if you are also playing for a tie, help me. You know, like,
Yeah. Or, you know, can you win faster than this person?
Yeah.
Because if not, then a tie is probably, like, maybe you don't see it yet, but that's what you're doing.
yeah. I think probably like the last part, because that's the part that I learned the most with, is when to force a tie. You know?
I also have gotten to a point too in my gaming career, play, whatever you want to call it, to where even if I have a counter, you know, I am good with being like, hey, if we don't draw here, that player wins. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to counter it. Like, because we got to a point here to where I'm the deciding factor and I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
So I counter you, they win. So just so you know, are you cool with a tie? If not, they win. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And that's one of those scenarios where it takes a lot to do that, because everybody wants to win. But there is those moments where the game is to a point where it's just there.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about it now rather than save it for the end. Pact Negation is one of those cards that, like, unfortunately, until it gets banned, it's a time maker for the most part. Like, most of the time, whenever I have Pact Negation in my hand, rather than cast it and then have to pay 5 on my next turn, I'm gonna try to force a tie. You know, like if I know that I can't push on the turn that I pay for it, I'll tell people like, hey, I have a pact. I can stop this person right here and now. I would like to propose a tie. Like if I'm putting a pact on the if I'm putting a pact on the stack, almost always I'm going to try to propose a tie where I'm like, I'll show a pact. I'd like to tie, and I'll put it to the person that's trying to win because they're really the most important person. Really, all I have to do is convince them to tie at that point. So if the person that's going for it is like, yeah, I've blown myself out. If this pact, I don't have anything to say about the pact. It'll resolve, and then I'll be out of the game. And then if the person next to them is like, well, I could try to win on my turn. I'm not going to agree to a tie. Then it's like, okay, well, the other option is I just don't cast it. So either you tie or you lose right now. And they're like, you would just let this person win?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I like, if I'm going to put a pact on the stack, I gotta get something out of it, you know? Like, so the answer here is I stop this person. This person that's going for it right now that has one on the stack, they're agreeing to a tie. If no one else agrees to a tie, I'll just let them get 5 points. Do you guys want 1 point or 0 point? Yes, yes, yes. Cool. Tie. You know, like.
Yeah, I had a scenario yesterday where the guy we ended up playing the game to time. However, with like 30 minutes left on the thing, he was like, I can necropotence here for something, and or we could just tie here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I looked at the table, and I kind of politicked out of that because I knew he was bluffing.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way. Like, let's say this person, they have no mana up, first off. Let's say they draw everything they need.
Yeah.
They still have to play.
They have to get a flash speed enabler.
Yeah, they have to play. I was like, can you show
Born Upon a Winter Valley
Born
color? Yeah.
And they were like, well, I don't really want to show. I was like, okay, well then.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't agree to it then.
Yeah.
And he looked at it and he was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead then.
Yeah.
And he went down to like 1 life, and somebody had like a 1 damage ping, kind of like VV. It wasn't VV, but it was something like VV to where it hit everybody for 1. I think it was Tiny Bones.
Yeah, yeah.
That does that, right?
Yeah, if you play a legendary. You do have to target though.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
he targeted him. But I was like, see, now
you're out of it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that was the only play they had.
Yeah.
Which there's times where you really want to understand board states and understand mana plays. Like, especially if you're going into playing CEDH, look at the top 5 decks and just see how they win. If you're not one of them, and if it's not, then the 6th deck.
we had just to kind of advice in action. So one of the guys that we play with, we went to a tournament with, they play Kefka, and they had gotten Bowmaster, Wheel of Fortune, and Underworld Breach, and they were like, they put together, they were like, I can win here, you know, and they wheeled us, and they had 21 damage to put on the stack, and they knew me, so they were like, he's at 20 health. I know him. I know he's a threat. I'll kill him first. And I was like, hey, you know, like, I'll show you my hand, like, after the wheel. I have nothing to stop you. Like, don't kill me just because you know me. You know? And I was like, you can kill me here, but I've shown you I have nothing to stop you. And there's 14 cards at the table. So, like, understand the predicament you're putting yourself in. I was like, what I want you to do is to put 8 damage on everybody and not kill me. Or if you're going to kill anybody, kill somebody else, because I can't stop you. And he was like, that makes sense. Like, I'm probably just targeting you because I know that I know you. And I was like, don't do that. So he dealt it out evenly. wheeled again, and I had a jeweled lion's eye diamond on the field, and I was like, if I'm gonna wheel, I don't feel like I'm getting another turn. I think it's just best for me to crack and get 3 blue. So I cracked, got 3 blue, discarded my hand, drew 7. And it was really unfortunate for him because I got I got the land that flips, the not sink into stupor.
Yeah.
I got sink into stupor, and I got packed, and I had 3 blue floating, and he wanted to save his trigger on Kefka for like an emergency type of thing, so he didn't move through phases to like empty out the blue. He also had some floating mana too, so I was just like, well, let me show you what I have. So you put all the pings out. On top of the pings, I'll sink into stupor your underworld breach. And he was like, okay, cool, I have a flash enabler. Put out these two rocks that I got. Let everything resolve down. Put underworld breach back now that the rocks have resolved. And I was just like, you have no mana, I have a pact. And he was just like, oh dang. And I was like, yeah, I got exactly what I needed. I'm sorry, man. And I was like, I'll show you a pact. The guy on blue farm to my left, he's dead. Of course he'll agree to a tie. I think you should agree to a tie here because you've gone so deep. Yeah, you could probably eventually swing out on us with your Auric and kill us, but we've got Timna Thrasios over here that had 0 cards in hand and now has a full grip because you wield him, and like he benefited the most out of this. He's not going to have to pay for a pact. And I was like, I'll show you that I do have win in hand right now, but if I'm paying the pact, it'll take me 2 turns. And I don't think even with a dark ritual that I can squeeze it through paying for the pact. So I think it's best for all of us to tie right here. And then the Timna Thras player was the only one holding out, and he was like, and I was like, again, I've not cast this pact, so what is best for you right now is to agree to the tie, because if you don't agree to the tie, I'm going to lose anyway. I'm not going to play the pact, and he'll just kill us right here. And he was just like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess a point's better than no point. And I'm like, great, okay.
Yeah. I've noticed that tying has now became somewhat of an art as well.
Yeah.
Before it was just kind of stumbled in, and now it's like it's where we're at, And I think that the politics have gotten to a point where if you're not noticing those opportunities, then you're really missing out on a big part of the game.
Yeah, I think pact needs to be banned. Like if the tie rate gets too crazy, it's pretty much solely because of pact. Like it's so easy to convince everybody to tie when there's a pact on the stack, because I'm like, I don't want to pay it, or it's like I'll cast the pact and then you guys need to mind break trap it away, like to get me to not agree to a tie or something like that. Yeah. Like it's become a problem where like if I have a pact, I will stop somebody and then just be like, I want to tie, before I put this on the stack, I want to tie, because yeah, I can stop them, but I'm just going to pay for it and pass. So like,
so I guess there's a few cards that are heavy politic cards to try to resolve. Like, say your Mystic isn't so much as like Ristic, and Smothering is one. I would say some of the one-sided stacks pieces, like Dranith, for one.
I would never let a Smothering Tithe resolve. Like I can't imagine. I think the only thing that would convince me with Smothering Tithe is if somebody was like, I know they're gonna wheel, and we need to stop this wheel, so I'll put it on the stack.
Yeah.
And even then, I'd just be like, they're probably just gonna wheel anyway. Like
Yeah.
if they can win. I mean, those big pieces, I don't really try to politic because like unless it's like a mystic or a ristic, like my politic is not you should let this resolve. My top politic is you are not the person I'm playing this ristic for. Like you are
Oh,
yeah,
I see
it's
sway
like
it away. Yeah.
what I'm trying to do is I'm playing this ristic because it stops VV.
Yeah.
Do not waste your counter on ristic study.
Let them do it.
Let them do it. And then that's where I leave it. And then when it gets to them, if they don't have a counter, then it resolves, and then I got the ristic.
So, I mean, I guess Atraxa could be one of those ones too. But for me, Atraxa is so dangerous to let happen.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like you said with smothering, I'd be like,
too bad. Yeah.
I just don't see it.
There are times where like you were saying with Drannith, where like I'll see somebody kind of knee jerk to try to get Drannith away, and I'm just like, I know you want your commander. Are you going to cast your commander and pass if it's gone? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, the Drannith stops food chain lines. The Drannith stops underworld breach lines. The Drannith stops all of these things. Like, do you really think you just getting your commander and passing is a great reason to remove Drannith? Like with like a lot of stacked pieces, like I've had a Traxa, Elish Norn out, the -2/-2.
Yeah.
And people have gone to remove it. And I'm just like, you do understand this is the only thing stopping Squee food chain right now, right? And then they'll be like, oh, it's like, why do you want to get rid of it? Like, I'm just asking. And then they're like, well, I want to get rid of it so that I can attack and actually get Tymna triggers. And it's like, can you stop a food chain combo if you get 2 triggers? And they're like, no. It's like, then leave it alone.
I can see that too. I argue about Drannith a lot too.
Yeah.
Because like that's one of those plays where if you have the mana up, it feels bad not to be able to cast your commander. Yeah. However, most of the time the commander is a value. Yeah. It's not necessarily the win. So
I'll also argue timing with people where like someone will see their Drannith and be like, oh, I can get rid of it at instant speed right now. And I'm like,
why?
Don't do it until it's that person's end step. So you're the only one that benefits with it being removed. Or like if somebody is next in rotation and on my end step, they want to get rid of it, I'll look at them and be like, can you just do a value turn? Because what I'm trying to do is stop VV from coming out. And yeah, you probably want your Glarb, but what does Glarb do? Do you just cast Glarb and pass? Well, instead of removing it, how about do you have cards in hand where you can drop like Arcane Signets and Mana Rocks and stuff like that? Like, how about you do a setup turn and then on my end step coming up, remove the Drannith. That way these speed decks, we put them behind and they have to recover because they're probably not running rocks or extra land drops or stuff like that, and usually they're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to remove it and then pass and then potentially lose. It's like, okay, great. Like, I'm all for you removing it. Just remove it at a time that makes the most sense. Like,
I'll also argue too, for my commander, depending on which commander I'm playing, especially if there's a blue farm, because it's like I need a Tymna blocker. At this point, like let my Ragavan come in, you know what I'm saying, or let whatever hit just in case, and then if Ragavan hits, I'll just swing at him, and either they give me the top card or the to argue that value, so I get it.
Yeah,
and especially if somebody doesn't have a creature for Tymna, it's like, well, I'll just keep swinging, and if they don't, then cool. If they do, then cool. Like,
I've also had people get a Drannith sent back to their hand, and then everybody else gets their commander out, and I don't, because I don't get a rotation with an Adraneth out. And then the person that had it sent back to their hand, they're like, well, I'll just play it because Hashton doesn't have their commander out. And I'm just like,
No,
do you want to just play a card that does nothing but lock me out? Like, I was like, because I'll tell you what happens if that draft resolves. I'm playing for a tie, and I'm no longer trying to win. I'm just trying to get the board state in an unwinnable space.
yeah, just not lose.
So if you want to play that draft and lock just me out, I can guarantee you I'm playing for a tie. Like that's where you'll put me,
I had the similar scenario. I was like turn 2 or seat 2 or 3, I can't remember exactly. And I knew that VV was going to go before me,
Yeah.
and I had Draneth turn 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so if I can get to my second turn, I'll play Draneth.
Yeah.
As soon as VV hit, I was like, oh man, I got a politic now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, look, guys, my whole plan for the VV was a Draneth. I knew it would have stopped the Sisay player, and it would have kind of hurt Glarb.
Yeah.
I knew Glarb was my in.
Yeah.
Because Sisay doesn't really hold as much to interact. But I was like, that's my play.
Yeah.
And I promise that's my play no matter what. Like I'm not gonna cast Draneth if all I do is lock out.
Yeah.
Because you Glarb had his commander, and I'm not gonna lock out Sisay.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'll even tell people, I'm like, I have a Dranth in hand. If I play it, somebody needs to guarantee that they can remove VV. Or we lose. Yeah. So it's like, right now I'm probably going to play Dranth just so VV can't play things from exile. However, if I play it and you guys can remove VV, it's way better because it's a 5-cost VV that they can't even cast. So like, can someone do it? And then usually like they'll be like, yeah, I can try. And I'm like, okay, cool. So if I know that everybody's going to be in a bad spot if I play this, I'll play it, and then we can take VV out.
And VV is the easiest to say. There's other decks that are similar.
Yeah.
I mean, Krakashima is one if that ever happens.
Rawl
for sure.
Yeah.
Any of
Atali,
any of those heavy hitter commanders. Atali is one of those ones where that player can kind of argue that there's no copy, but I don't really listen to Atali because Atali doesn't politic. Atali just does.
I also wouldn't. I would play Draneth even if they had an Atali out, because if they get another Atali trigger, then it's like you can exile them. You can't cast them though. So like, cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, like if you want to just start swinging at me with Atali, go right ahead. Yeah.
I think Draneth is a big piece. I think that's kind of why we're leaning into it.
Yeah.
Because he is such a big piece to stop decks from... I mean,
it's like the Grafdigger's Cage dilemma, where it's like Kinnan was a monster, and then everybody started running Grafdigger's Cage, and then Kinnan went away, and then everybody was like, well, because Kinnan went away, I'm going to take it out of my deck. And then the Kinnan players were like, oh, I can go back to my deck now. And then they went back to their deck. And like for a while, we were like bouncing in between that. It doesn't really happen too much with Kinnan anymore. But now it's those really crazy, like I resolve my commander, I mostly win type of decks that are winning now. And people kind of need to see that and go, oh, okay, I need to put Draneth back in my deck. And then you put Draneth back in your deck and a couple people have it, and it comes out pretty often to where those really fast decks are like, oh, okay, well, now I can't be really fast. Like I can't play VV because I can't bank on always getting my Claim the Firstborn or Lightning Bolt or stuff like that. So it's, it sways back and forth. It's just before Atali wins a 500 Steel City tournament, people should go, oh, hey, these fast commanders are winning more. Maybe if I have white, I put Draneth back in.
I could see that, yeah.
I think... Oh, the other thing that we haven't really gone over is politicking also includes like judge calls.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, because like at the end of the day, if I call a judge on somebody, they're probably never going to politic with me again the rest of the tournament. But I've had like certain situations where people, and like I don't really think they're trying to cheat the system. I'll have people be like, hey, I'm gonna cast this 3-cost spell, and then they'll send it around, and then when it resolves, they're like, I tapped my mana wrong, and they'll retap their mana now that they know that it resolved. And I'm like, you can't do that. And if there's any argument at all, I'm just like, hey, like, you can't pass it around and then once it resolves, be like, this is a better way for me to tap my mana. If we can't agree with that, I'm gonna call a judge. Yeah. I've also had people miss like triggers, and they're like, hey, I should have had a Esper Sentinel trigger. I missed it. I went to my second main. Can I get it now? And I'm just like, no, you missed it. I hate to be like that. And then if there's any argument at all, I'm just like, hey, we're gonna have to call a judge, like fully knowing like what the judge is probably gonna say. But there's if everybody agrees to a misplay and people correcting it, then it's not a misplay. And when you're in like a tournament setting, people shouldn't be able to see a spell resolve and retrap their mana, or be like, oh hey, I had a Ristic trigger that we forgot about. Like, can I draw the card? Like, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like, we're in a tournament setting. Like, this is not you playing with your friends. Like, if you miss a trigger, especially if it's a May trigger, you just don't get it. Like, there were a couple of situations where like someone resolved a Smothering Tithe and they kind of zoned out, and then it passed 2 players, and they got to me and they were like, oh hey, did you pay for your Smothering Tithe? Did you pay for your Smothering Tithe? And I was like,
Yeah, it's too late.
you missed it. It's a May. Like, when it's a May, it's something that like really shouldn't really need a judge. Like, you missed your trigger. But whenever it's something like Esper Sentinel, when people are like, well, it's not a May, like I would have had to draw if they didn't pay for it. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't put the ability on the stack, so they never got the opportunity to pay the 1. And then there will be people that are like, I'll just pay the 1 now. And I'm like, no, you won't. Like, judge. I mean, really, if people miss stuff, you're in a tournament setting, you should be playing to a tournament standard. Like, I try to hold people accountable, and I've had people like be a little bit shady. Like, for example, I resolved a Tiny Bones joins up, and I was like, do you have anything to say about it? And they went, no. And I passed it around. I made a point to pass it around because it's an important card for me to resolve. And then I was like, all right, ETB trigger, I'll target everybody. And then they're like, well, no, like, back on the Tiny Bones. And I'm like, no, you passed. You can't pass and then go, oh, my opponents don't have counters. I guess I would rather play my counter now.
Yeah.
And I was like, you passed on it. And they started to act like they were kind of upset. And I was just like, if I need to call a judge, I will. But like, we passed it around. And then they were like, fine, whatever. It's like, no, it's not whatever. That's how the game works.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Because what they were going to do is they were going to play a demonic consultation, and they would have rather demonic consultation for a counter rather than give me a chain of vapor. So once I had resolved it, they were just like, oh well, now my interaction is like far more limited on what I can do. So I want to go back to it and try to counter it. It's like, no. Like, it's resolved. That's too bad. And the other thing too is like with discards, which it's a little bit more relevant because of Kefka. What you're supposed to do with discards is everybody puts their card face down, and then we all reveal at the same time. There's people that will just see the trigger on the stack and they'll discard the card, and people will go like, oh, okay, like, if they're going to discard not a counter, then I'll discard not a counter, like something like that. And it's like, no, like, this trigger on the stack, we're all going to have to discard. We all put our discard face down, and then we all reveal once we've committed.
I would argue with that. You can also talk as the triggers on the stack.
Yeah, you can.
So you can be like, hey, with this here, does anybody have anything to stop it? If not, I'm going to be discarding this.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
what are we going to discard if that's what we're going to do?
you can say whatever you want, but you're supposed to discard the
Yeah,
card
of course,
face down. Yeah.
of course.
There's some people that'll just be like, even
Oh, yeah,
without
no.
turn signets, like they'll just be like, well, I'm next in rotation, I'll discard Draneth, and like they'll just throw it to yard, and I'm like, it's not how it works. You got to put it face down. We go in sequence, and then once we've all committed to what our card is, we flip it up. It's like mulligans, like
Yeah, that way it doesn't give anybody an opportunity,
yeah,
an unneeded opportunity,
yeah.
rather.
Like someone could be like, oh well, if you're gonna discard a Draneth, I was going to discard a land, but now that I know that like a Dranth isn't going to come down, I'd rather keep that land for my commander and I'll discard this thing. Like that's not how it works, like
No, because that gives too much. We can talk about information,
yeah.
but until we show the information, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell you I'm going to drop. It's unfortunate that you can have people that are a little more shady
Yeah.
and say some random stuff. However, that is still part of the game.
Yeah. Like I've had people Gixie and probe me and then try to lay my hand out on the table. And I'm just like, no, like you're welcome to tell everybody what I have in my hand, but like you can't reveal my information. Like same with Op Agent too.
So on that note,
Yeah.
I have now on Spell Table decided to never just show it all out at once.
A spell table, I don't care because it's not a tournament. Like,
Well, for me, it's more of a politicking piece,
yeah,
because not that I lie, but in the same instance, the information shouldn't be freely given because of one spell for 2 life or 1 mana.
yeah,
So I'll block those other 2 and then show that person the hand. And if they say it to the other people,
Yeah.
cool. If they don't, cool.
Yeah.
And if they do say it, I mean, I won't have very much responses to anything. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to give away my hand
yeah,
per se. However, as far as judge calls, I think that the realization that the judge makes a call and an action that is, I don't want to say has to be universal, is one of those things where sometimes it's advantageous to the table, and sometimes it's not. It just
Yeah.
depends.
I mean, if you're playing for a tie, the one thing that happens with a judge call is it takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a little time.
And sometimes, like, if you have to wait for a judge, like the judge is not available, they'll give you like 5 minutes back for waiting. But if the judge comes over and there's a lot of argument, like, it can be one of those things where if you're trying to play for a tie, like, number one, you don't want anybody to have value they shouldn't have. And then number two, it takes some time too. Like, obviously don't call a judge if a judge isn't needed.
With that intent.
Because I will say, I know a couple judges, if you just call a judge over just to do it because you're trying to waste time, that judge can always give time back. And the judge might be like, you called me over here for no reason. It took about 5 minutes. You get a 5-minute extension. Bye.
Yeah, no. But I mean, I've seen also judge calls to where it was pretty insane.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, a guy forgot to.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, a guy forgot to discard.
And this happens often. I'd say probably once a tournament I run into it.
And at no point do I think that person was trying to cheat.
Yeah.
I do think that in those, when you get to your 4th or 5th round, your brain starts to kind of turn into mashed potatoes. So we're all just trying to play.
Yeah.
And they forgot to discard down to hand size. Well, the judge's call was to let the player that's active look at the cards in their hand and discard a card because we didn't know which card.
Well, the other thing too is it also depends when you catch it, because there are times where like someone will see somebody make an action and they'll look at their hand and then they'll realize that they have 8 cards. And then they have information they shouldn't have had. And then they'll be like, I'll just drop a card. And it's like, well,
no,
you can't just drop a card anymore because like you had an illegal amount of cards in hand. This person has cast a spell. Maybe you're dropping a Draneth when you would have dropped a Pact because you didn't have the mana to cast it. And now you're trying to play for a tie. So you kept the pack and you're going to drop something else, like.
to me, whenever that call was made to give that person the view of the hand and then discard,
Yeah.
was pretty insane to me.
Yeah.
I
mean,
what was
it's
it?
fair.
Was it the right thing? It's what was called.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the person wasn't going to win either way. I think it was a tie scenario. However, it was interesting.
And I've asked this before, but I forgot the answer. Well, I remember you were in a tournament and there was a card on the stack and then someone had passed and it was about to resolve and then they were like, "Oh, I didn't realize the card did that. I want to call a judge and I want to argue that I should get priority back to counter." It was at a recent tournament. I can't remember what the judge call was, but there was like some crazy stuff where I was like playing a game and I was like,
okay,
yeah.
So
I was like, this guy wants to go back and get priority because he didn't know what the spell did. Like, you know.
So initially it was a Glarb Doomsday scenario. So Glarb had already resolved the Doomsday. What was going to end up happening is we were going to shuffle the Glarb Doomsday stack.
Yeah.
To where it's no longer in the order that they need to win.
Yeah.
And it also maybe have countered something. It was like counter and shuffle.
Yeah.
Something weird like that. I don't remember the card exactly. But player had played it. It was on the Glarb's turn.
Yeah.
So Glarb had first priority.
Yeah.
I guess. Maybe that's not correct.
They would have last priority.
Either way, we had gotten to a point to where they had looked at the card and had made their decision, I guess, either on their turn or on their priority or whatever. And we had passed on it.
Yeah.
And it was, pass to Glarb. And Glarb was like, well, I'll Veil of Summer or something to that effect. And I go, the players that as we were resolving the spell, the guy was like, okay, well, go ahead and shuffle your library and your graveyard or whatever it is. And they're like, what? Well, I want to go ahead and do such and such then. And I was like, no.
It's resolving right now.
We've already made that. I was like, judge.
Yeah.
And the judge came over and was like, well, the player didn't know exactly what it did. I go, respectfully.
Too bad. Yeah.
Respectfully, the card was on the stack and they read it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but I have an issue with that.
Yeah. Do I get to say, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know what Underworld Breach did. Can I get priority back?
Yeah. So I believe the judge call was, I don't think it was wrong. I think it was the most... I don't know how to explain it. It was the most unconflicty resolution, so it was going to not cause as much problems. And they were like, well, if everybody agrees that they can take it back, then we're good. And surprisingly, the other two guys were like, yeah, that's okay. And I was like, no.
Yeah. To me, when we're playing for money, I hold people to a tournament standard. If you can't get a win that you shouldn't have had, like if you misplay, you misplay. Now, if you misplay and like you catch it right away and you've not gotten any information, and sometimes that information is just this person passed, so it's going to resolve. Like when a spell's going to resolve, you can't be like, well, if it's going to resolve anyway, I'm going to actually like get the most value out of it. It's like no. Like you were playing conservatively when you cast the spell, thinking that you're going to have to counterplay. That's too bad. You need to continue your conservative turn, like
or make an adjustment for your next move.
Yeah.
However, scenarios like that, I mean, I would, if something funky happened and there's no resolution at the table that makes sense, call a judge for sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I also I'm not a judge, but like I could probably take the test and become a judge. But there's times where I'm just like, hey, this is what happened. And like when the judge comes over, I'm like, I'll speak for the table. This is what happened. He gained new information because we all passed. And then once we all passed, he decided to retap his mana. I don't think that's fair because once he learned that he wasn't going to get countered, he went, oh, I'm going to tap my mana in a different way. He might have been keeping up a blue for a counter, and now it's different. You know, I think he should have to tap the mana like how it was. You know,
Yeah, it should be the same.
so it's like problem, why it's a problem, suggested resolution. You know,
I've seen, I've played with some really good players too, and I've seen them do the same.
yeah,
I mean, knowledge of what should happen
yeah,
is always solid. And in a tournament setting, like I encourage everybody to play a tournament,
yeah,
but in a tournament setting, I understand that people are at different levels in the game,
yeah,
and that to me, a judge call kind of clears the air. It's a third party that comes into this, or a fourth, fifth
yeah.
party, whatever it is, that makes the decision, and we continue, even if
Yeah.
I know the decision.
For me, people that are at different levels of the game, you should finish at different levels of the game. So, like, if you're not top 16, if you're not playing in a way that you should get top 16, you should not be able to make a mistake, take it back, and because everybody at the table agrees, and then get to top 16 where someone else played really well and they didn't make any mistakes and they don't get to go to top 16 because somebody let something stupid pass or like, you know, something slip under the radar.
Yeah, for sure.
It for me, it's more integrity of the entire tournament too. Not like I don't want somebody to get top 4 and then the people that were at the table, they were like, well, this guy, he had a City of Traders and none of us caught that he didn't sacrifice it. And yeah, we should have called a judge, but I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. It's like, well, crap. Yeah, like, you know, that's crappy. Like,
Yeah, I've had a very similar scenario at a really big tournament
Yeah.
of that, and that's probably where you got the reference.
it was just like the thing that came to my mind first.
That being said, at that exact scenario, from here on, I'm gonna call a judge no matter
Yeah.
what, and it's not necessarily a mean thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a. Also, I've seen priority change too.
Yeah.
Not to go off on a major tangent here, but I've seen where players have played out of priority, and I go, look, man, like I'm last in priority. I don't think it's fair to do that to people to where now I have to make that information known.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Like you should go by priority. You shouldn't rush them.
Yeah.
I get that you're playing with a time limit. I get it.
Yeah.
However, we are playing a game, and at the end of the day, it takes time to do each action.
Yeah. I mean, one of the crazier things that I saw that everybody else let go but me was there was a Thrasios player that had Seedborn Muse, and he had passed with 15 minutes left, and he had to get through 3 people's turns and then get to his turn to win. So he was trying to rush everybody, and person 1, he was like, hey, I'm going to untap. I'm going to do my Thrasios triggers. You can keep playing. I'm just going to get my Thrasios triggers. So he was trying to rush all of his Thrasios triggers while that person was playing so that he could get the value, but also not hold up the time. And I was like, no, you can't do that. Like, if you want to get those Thrasios triggers, we need to stop the game. You need to put them all on the stack and we need to watch you do them. You can't rush everybody to take 5-minute turns and then also get 4 or 5 Thrasios triggers on every single person's turn. Like,
No,
if you want to rush us, great, you can rush us, but you don't get to get 4 to 5 cards on every single person's turn. And also, in tandem, choose the cards that you want to keep based on what they do.
Yeah, no.
And also, not hold the time while you're playing the game, you know? And he got really salty about that. And then I was playing Corvold, and I had a reanimate in hand. So I was like, hey, you know, I want to see graveyards. And he was just like, judge, like trying to call a judge on me for slow play. And I was like, I need to see some public information. I have a card that interacts with graveyards. Like, I'm not going to show it to you. I want to see graveyards. And I wasn't like sitting there and going, but I had to reanimate. And I was like, I want to know what's in graveyards that could stop him the best. You know?
Yeah.
And then he called the judge over, and I was like, hey, this guy's trying to do Thrasios triggers in tandem with our plays. I wanted to see graveyards while he was doing his Thrasios triggers. And he's saying that I'm slow playing while he's taking actions. Also, I could just stop my turn and look at graveyards if I wanted to. And the guy was like, yeah, if you want your Thrasios triggers, you got to put them on the stack and do all of that. And I was like, good. So he was like, well, I won't do any Thrasios triggers. And I was like, cool. Well, I want to see graveyards. And he's like, well, if you're looking at graveyards, I want to put some Thrasios triggers on the stack. And I was just like, when you have priority, you can. And he was like really salty. He was like screaming to the point where like other people were at, and they were like, what happened with that guy? Like, not people in our group, like other people.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's when people start to get away with stuff, they'll definitely get away with stuff to their benefit, and like you have to check that, which I know we're kind of like all a little awkward if we're playing Magic, and like you might want to just be like, I don't really want to make a big stink about this, like this is fine, like, but it's when you're at a tournament, unfortunately it's not fine. Like I think that was the hardest thing for me, was to get used to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to be the a-hole of the table and call a judge. Like, will people get mad? Yeah. But also they shouldn't be putting me in this position. Like if you missed a trigger and you still want to draw the card, even though you missed a trigger, and I say no and you say yes, I'm going to get a judge over here.
I know we've kind of went off on a little bit here, but I would also like to, since spell table is a big thing with players now, like it's a good way for us to maybe get a group together across the world kind of thing. We do a lot of shortcutting.
Yeah.
I would say shortcutting for a land, when you say the land, fine.
Yeah.
If I say, hey, I'm going to go grab a Taiga, cast this.
Yeah.
Everybody cool with that? If that's good, I pass.
Yeah.
I do not think that you should be like, well, hey, I'm going to vamp tutor. I know what card I'm grabbing.
Yeah. You can go.
Yeah.
No. I will wait always. I'm surprised people won't too. Like
I refuse to move forward.
I'll stop people. I'll be like, hey, do not play anything because that will change what they tutor. And they're like, well, I can't name it if it's a vamp tutor. And I'm like, cool, I understand. We'll wait. Yeah. And like, if they want to put the card on the table and be like, this is what I'm getting, and while they shuffle people play, that's completely fine. I don't mind that. But I've had people be like, hey, this is what I'm getting, put the card face down and shuffle. And then somebody makes an action or two. And then they're like, actually, now that I think about it, it's like, no, you committed. That's the only reason we moved forward. So like you have to put that on top. Like
I've also had a different scenario too, where I'll maybe pick a card. I was like, hey, I'm gonna vamp tutor. Give me a moment, let me get through it. And then I'll be like, no, I don't really want this card. And then that person be like, well, you picked it. It's like, well, no information has been shown.
It's still my turn. Yeah.
I still have the deck in my hand.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. I'll put a card down to just be like, maybe I want this. And then most of the time, I'd say 9% of the time, if I do that, I'm taking it.
That's it. Yeah.
But there's some times where I make sure to keep my hand and the deck and the cards that I picked completely separate.
Yeah, completely.
And there's times where I'll put the deck down, I'll grab my hand and make sure that's obvious that I have grabbed my hand, and I'll relook at my hand and I'll be like, actually, I'm stupid. Why am I getting an underground sea if I need a command tower? Like, command tower is clearly the best grab if I'm going to go get a land. And I'll put my hand down and I'll get the card that I'd set aside and I'll shuffle it back in. And I've had people not be happy about that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, this has never touched my hand. Also, I've made a point to put the deck down. I'm not looking for it. I'm not mixing anything. I just want to relook at my hand and make sure that the card that I put aside as a maybe is a for sure now.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you're new to CEDH and you're jumping into like tournament scene, those little things that maybe in the pod aren't really a big deal, are a big deal in that.
Yeah.
And politicking is one of those one of those ways that I don't want to say that there's bad players, but there's people that will take advantage
Yeah.
of something like that to where, you know, any new information that's been given on any action that's been taken is not necessarily allowed
Yeah.
in that trigger.
Yeah.
You know, if I was to say, hey, I'm going to get a taiga and now I get a savannah, it's different.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So,
My also just, I think this is probably going to be my last point, but just don't be a jerk. Be fun to play with. Like I've played with people that they think that they're really good at politicking, and their politicking is telling everybody how to play, and they think that they're this like master manipulator because they're like, oh, I'm gonna tell these guys how to play, and like, I'm gonna tell them what to do, and then when it gets to my turn, I'm gonna win. Or like, people will just be difficult where they're like, well, hey, I'm gonna do this, and you just have to deal with it, or stuff like that, where it's just like, if you're not a jerk, people tend to listen to you, and people also really at the end of the day just want to have fun. Like there's been times where I've gone, and this is kind of separate, but like I've gone to the table. It's round 3. We've gotten 2 ties, and I'll tell people like, "Hey, if all of us tie here, we're putting ourselves in a position that we know 8 points won't get us to top 10, top 16. So we're putting ourselves in a position where if we tie here, we have to commit to win round 4 and 5. And if we're in round 3 with 2 ties, we're not going to win out the rest of the day, So it's
yeah.
like, I want someone here to win. I think we should mulligan for winning hands. If you're playing a stacks deck, don't just mulligan for stacks and try to tie it, because if you tie it, all of us are out. Like the only hope we would have is to win round 4 or 5, and we just know that that's not going to happen. So like, can we all commit to keeping winning hands? And a lot of people will be like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, thank you for telling us that. Or, there's times I'm never really going to like tell the table something. Like if someone asks me how I win from here, like I'll put a spell out and people will be like, are you winning? And I'm like, I'm playing the game, man. Like I'm not going to tell you that I'm winning. But I try to keep the table like informed to where like I'm not really playing the game for them. And I will make suggestions. Like I'll be like, hey, I don't think that we should let this tutor resolve. I know the answer is usually counter what the tutor gets, but like if you have a counter that only counters non-creature spells, or if you have a counter that only counters instant or sorceries, like I think what they're going to go get is like a food chain, and your Fluster Storm's not going to counter a food chain if that's what you have. And they're like, that makes sense. I'll throw a counter. Like so stuff like that, where I'm kind of more trying to coach the table, and I'm not really trying to like belittle anybody or assume that no one knows how to play the game, but like I try to coach people when at the table with me in a way where I'm like, hey, I know that you might not know the best thing to do, and at the end of the day you see your hand. So like if I think you should counter something, or if I don't agree with your play, like at the end of the day you see your hand and I don't, so I'll just trust that you're making the best decision. But I don't know if I would have done that, or like stuff like that. Or like, I'll call out where the value is. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm always trying to keep it fun. I'm not trying to make anybody feel stupid for playing what they played. Like, if somebody does something I don't agree with, I always kind of fall back to like, hey, your hand. You're making the best decision based on your information. I'm trying to make the best decision on my information, but you
This
see
is
your
the
hand.
state.
You see your hand. I don't. If that's what you think is the best, we can pass priority around. They'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, cool. Fair. I've gone to tables where somebody's just like a jerk the entire time, and I've seen people be like in a king making situation, and they're just like, you're putting a win on the stack. I'm gonna be honest. I don't agree with how you've played. Here's a counter spell. You got to play through it. And they're like, you would king make. It's like,
Of course.
this is where we're at. Like I don't want you to win here.
I I have Oh man, I've had that scenario.
Yeah.
I had a scenario where an aggressive player was trying to get to their turn,
Yeah.
and I was like, I would rather this person win.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you're not going to get in the top four. I was like, neither will you.
Yeah. It's like where we're at, I'm not going to get in the top four either way.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. I mean, and like I don't really, I don't think putting a counter on the stack is a spite play. Like I've seen people be like, "Oh, you countering my win is a spite play." It's like,
No.
no, that's how the game is played. I'm not going to just let you win. Like, and that's more of a like top 16 thing where like you can't try to argue for a tie. It's like, hey, if you're going to put win on the stack, I'm going to counter it. And they're like, you would do that? It's like, yeah, I have a counter spell on hand. I have the mana open. In what world would I just let you win?
I would also say if you're listening to this and you've played with me or Cryptid and we're in the same pod,
Oh yeah, I try to tie.
yeah, we're gonna tie. Like it doesn't matter. I don't want to say it doesn't matter the scenario, but most scenarios, it's too hard for me to not pick up on their tail signs, and I feel like Cryptid knows what's in my hand no matter what. Like it doesn't matter.
Our group is pretty bad at showing their hand. Outside of you, you're pretty good at keeping it, but I've been trying to coach them lately because I'm just like, I see your hand often and I don't want to. Like, I want to assume what's in your hand based on your actions, not know what's in your hand because while it was your turn, you put your hand down in the middle of the board state and started looking at your cards, where it's like what I was trying to do was look at your board state and then you forcefully put your hand there and I saw everything.
Yeah, I would say politics is a skill that gets better over time. So if
Yeah.
you're playing and you're not, you feel like you're missing a piece.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of playing often.
Yeah.
You'll see the plays and the things. I would say if you're in that scenario, knowing the other decks and what their play patterns are is the play. But it's definitely one of those skills that you can hone, and the top players definitely hone those skills.
Yeah. And I will also say like you don't want to lie when you're playing because like people will call you out. Like yesterday, someone said that they didn't have, well, 2 days ago, but they said they didn't have Thos in a hand. And I accidentally saw their hand and I was like, they actually do. Like they have the secret layer art. I saw it. Like, sorry. But like, I will very selectively say what I said. Like, I will very be selective about what I say. Like, there's been times where like Rog size going off and I have a silence in hand. And I'm just like, I don't want to burn the silence because if people stop him, I have a silence for my turn. So I'll be like, hey, I don't have any counters in hand. I pass. And then everyone else will be like, well, if he doesn't have any counters in hand, like I need to throw in. And then they'll throw in and then it'll get to my turn. And on my turn, I'm like, silence. And they're like, I thought you didn't have any counters in hand. And I'm just like,
It's not a counter.
a silence is not a counter. Yeah. Like,
I think that also if you start going to these tournaments, you'll notice the same faces.
mm-hmm.
And if you're known for lying,
Yeah.
it's hard. Like it's a hard thing to deal with.
You might win one tournament and then you're done.
Yeah. And also like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Like we're also like I've met a lot of great people. I would say almost everybody I play with is really fun to play with.
I mean, I'd say we go to 40 people tournaments pretty often, and like we'll bring 8 of our people, so we know a fourth, very well.
Yeah.
And then we definitely know. I'd say it's rare when we go to a tournament we don't know 2/3 of the players. Like CDH is one of those things that like you either have the investment to play or you don't. So the people that like to play have invested quite a lot, and they'll drive 2 to 3 hours for a good tournament,
Or 8.
Yeah,
I've
or
seen
8.
that too.
Yeah. And like, well, we I'd say 2/3 it's pretty rare that we go to a place and over half the people we don't know them. Like it's the first time we're seeing them. So like you'll see the same people over and over. And I've sat down at tables and people have been like, "Hey, 3 months ago I was at a tournament and this guy said he didn't have Thassa combo and he had Necropotence, so he didn't draw." And then we passed to him and he played Thassa, and the guy, like, he lied to me. So just FYI, this guy will lie. He lied at a different tournament and he'll be like, "Yeah, I did. I wasn't proud of it, but it was my only way to win." And it's just like, okay, well,
Good to know that
good to know
how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things. Also, I've played a lot of the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like you were saying, draw and then, well, I think I want to try. Then you have a win.
Yeah.
Like we know. Like, so can we understand that?
Can we all understand that we're all willing to tie? So we need to all not push on our turn and save up counters for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been in that scenario too, where I've been like, I don't necessarily want to tie.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have it on my turn? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not there yet, but maybe.
And there's times where I've just been like, I don't want to tie, but if we can all agree that I can look at my top card, I'll make a decision then, rather than it get around to me. And usually people will be like, "No, if you don't want to tie, you don't want to tie." I'm like, fair, like.
And that happens more. It's more classy than I don't have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I even had people be like, I won't win on my turn. And then everybody will be like, okay. And then they'll play a Final Fortune. And then they're like, well, I said I wouldn't win on my turn. I'm taking a second turn. It's like, fair enough.
I've done that.
Yeah. That's one of those things where, like, when people say that they're not going to win, I'm like, cool. So you want to tie then? And then they're like, no, I wouldn't agree to a tie. And it's like, interesting.
But no, I do think that you want to be more of the liked politician than the sleazeball politician, I guess.
I mean, I will say that, like, when people get desperate, they'll look for the person that has had the best social credit, and they'll be like, what do we do? And I'll be like, all right, guys, I'm glad you're finally going to listen to me. We're playing for a tie. This is what we need to do. You're Gitrog. I have a Notion Thief out. I need you, and this is going to sound crazy, I need you to sack all of your lands so that I can get enough cards to stop this person. And then they're like, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you got to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or, like the interesting situation from last tournament where I had surveilled, I saw that I had win, and I was like, hey, I can guarantee a tie right here. It's my turn. I need one of you to help me draw a card. I can't naturally draw a card. So if you help me draw a card, I'll cast Mnemonic Betrayal. And once it resolves, it'll be extremely clear that I can win. And I will promise not to win if one of you will force me to draw a card by sacking a land, doing something where you would draw and I'll draw off the Notion Thief. And they're like, and you promise you'll resolve Mnemonic Betrayal and you won't win even though you could. And I'm like, yeah, because Blue Farm 100% has it on their turn. And they're like, you pinky promise. And I'm like, putting my pinky out, and I'm like, I pinky promise, if I could find a way to draw this card myself, I wouldn't care. I would just win. But because you are forcing me to draw it, and it has to be passed at sorcery speed, I will let everybody know that if I cast this, I will tie the moment it resolves. And then they're like, okay, cool. And I was like, cool. All right, cast it. We good? Tie? I'm not going to make any more actions if we all agree to tie. If Blue Farm says that they're not going to tie, I'll just win.
I think that's a big play there, because it may not win you that game.
Yeah.
However, you're also known
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're going to see these people again. If you go to tournaments, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'm also not going to step on somebody to win, like I'm not going to trick somebody into drawing me a card unless they do it of their own will. And then if they do it of their own will, then I'm like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, here's the win.
Yeah. Here's the win. Yeah.
I've said it multiple times. I was like, I don't necessarily lie.
Yeah.
That's just not something I like to do. It's not the way I want to be remembered. And, could I have won games if I would have lied? I'm sure.
One or two games, and then you would have never won.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was in a tournament, and I play Esper. So I was like, hey, I can wheel, but I need somebody to get rid of the... Orcish Bowmaster. And they were like, I would like to wheel too. My hand sucks. And I was like, if you can get rid of the Orcish Bowmaster, I'll wheel us. And then they were like, okay. And then they swords the Orcish Bowmaster. And what I had was a dark deal. And I cast it. And they were like, that's not a wheel. And I was just like, well, it's a wheel. We all discard our hand and we draw. And then they were like, but it's not like a wheel effect, like Wheel of Fortune. And I was just like,
I never said Wheel of Fortune.
I was like, I never said Wheel of Fortune. Also, I'm Esper. Like, how would I resolve? They're like, well, I thought you were going to windfall. And I was just like, I mean, I never said windfall. Like, I get it, but you said you didn't like your hand. You have 3 cards. You're going to get 2 cards that are better. Like,
whatever.
Yeah, like I get it. I get it wasn't what you were expecting, but like, I held up my end of the bargain.
Yeah, it is what it was.
Yeah.
No,
Now, if I would have said Wheel of Fortune and been in red, and then he was like, "You didn't cast Wheel of Fortune," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm an a-hole." That wasn't my intention, but I get where you're coming. Like, yeah.
Or the I don't use this often, very much at all, really. But being like, I have an answer for it, and the answer is winning.
Win. Yeah.
I've seen that happen, but no,
I won't say that I have an answer for it. I'll just be like, if I can get to my turn, I guarantee you this person won't win. Like, and they'll be like, yeah, sure. And then I'll win on my turn. And they're like, oh, I thought you were going to stop them. And I was like, I did.
Permanently.
Yeah. They have 0 chance to win now because I won.
That's funny. No, I think politics is definitely, it's probably the most fun part about Commander, in my opinion. And I think getting skilled in it is worth taking a little time to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say playing the correct deck is probably, knowing your cards and playing the deck is probably 60 to 70% of winning, but the other 40 to 30% is definitely like politicking. Like, especially if you're in blue and you can show people, it's like, I have a counter to stop you right here. Please don't push.
Yeah. But other than that, is there any other topics you can think of on politicking that would make? I think we've covered just about everything.
Yeah. I'm curious what I'm going to title this episode when we're done, just because I think CEDH Politics sounds really boring. So I might do CEDH Table Talk, or I don't know. I should have said this at the beginning, but this was a Discord suggested topic that 2 people were like, I really want some insight on this. And this was not something that we were really thinking of until people suggested in the Discord.
Kudos for them.
So kudos for them. If you're listening to this podcast and you're just like, there is an episode I would love to hear, let us know either in the comments, in the Discord. I've been pretty good about keeping up with the Discord. I will say this topic was suggested about 2 months ago, and I've been very communicative of like, this is on the list, but we've got EOE. We went all the way to Atlanta, so I don't really want to skip this because we did a giant tournament with a bunch of personalities that we're gonna have a guest spot. Like, that's definitely higher in priority. But this one is one of those things where it's like, I'm getting to it. Number one, because you asked for it. Number 2, it's a really good topic.
It was a high priority. We just had initial things that came first.
And they needed to be timely.
Yeah,
This was
of
one of
course.
those things that like we could put out whenever, but it was still kind of burning a hole in my pocket because I was like, people asked for this. I want to get it out. You know,
I was pretty excited about this, and then coming off of a tournament where I felt like it was really politic heavy. I mean, I think I had 3 draws,
yeah,
so it's a lot.
yeah, yeah. I've seen a lot of people recently just go right to a draw right away, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, let's try to get somebody to win out of this. Like, you know, like I'll only draw if it's one of those things where it's like, I am for sure I'm gonna get 0 points. So like, yeah, I would like to draw.
I would also say, depending on the fatigue, because getting an extra
Yeah.
30-40 minutes is useful.
Now, if I've sweeped all day and in the last round everybody's like, we're for sure getting in top 10, it's just seed order at this point. Do you want to draw? I'll probably say yes, but I mean, I've also sweeped all day and it was a top 10, and in because I sweeped all day, I was able to get into seat 2 rather than have to play. So I was like, well, if I win this one, I just don't have to play top 10, so I'd get an hour and a half break. So
I want to try that.
I want to play because I'm on a roll. You know?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
But no, thanks guys for the suggestion. It was something that I feel maybe goes unnoticed sometimes, but is a big part of the game.
Yeah, and if you guys got any more, even if it seems super obvious, it might not be obvious to us because I'm gonna be honest, there are so many sets coming out all the time that we rarely have an open spot. And if we do have an open spot, it's usually like, hey, we've done 4 tournaments and you guys seem to enjoy the tournament breakdowns because they get pretty good views. So I don't want to miss those. And I don't want to do them 2 to 3 months after and be like, well,
I kind of remember.
during spring, we, you know, like it's not very valuable at that point. But there are times like this one where we just so happen to have an opening and Spider-Man's not out yet. So we had an opportunity to put it in. So thank you guys for the suggestion, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks guys again.
Bye.
Bye.